Hello everyone, my name is Ratuf and today we will be talking a little bit more about armor usage in World of Tanks Blitz. So we've talked about hold down before, and this time it's the Sidescraping time. But before saying anything, we need to know what exactly is Sidescraping. Just like hold down, Sidescraping is a tactic that we use to maximize a tank's armor effectiveness, therefore increase survivability and performance. Sidescraping consists in using the side armor of a tank at an angle that presents a high chance of ricochet. It can either be used defensively or offensively depending on the tank and the situation. Well, that's Sidescraping. Easy to learn but hard to master. But in order to master it, you will need to keep a few things in mind. First of all, you will need to know your tank, mainly the armor profile and weak spots. A good way to check armor profiles is either by learning them by facing the tanks on the battlefield or by checking them online. Personally, I prefer the latter and use Blitz kit for that, but you can also use Armor Inspector or Blitz Hanger if you want. And don't you dare try Sidescraping using an Electo. Yes, I'm talking to you, you greedy piece of shit. Anyway, please keep in mind that over-angling your tanks while Sidescraping is much more dangerous than not angling them at all. Why? It's because your overly angled side armor is much more easier to hit than your frontal weak spots. You also need to have an idea of your opponent's tanks, mainly how good their guns are in terms of penetration and caliber size. What I mean is that it's quite hard to sidescrape against something like a Hori or a Death Star. One has a lot of penetration, while the other can deal a lot of splash damage. You can always make things harder for your opponents by wiggling a bit, but even if you manage to sidescrape well and be able to deal with the targets in front of you, one unexpected sneaky flanker can render your skill useless. So it'll be worth it to check the minimap from time to time, just to be safe. What's that? You want to know more about what I meant by defensive and offensive sidescraping? Well, let's put it this way. If you're sidescraping and actively trying to take a shot at your opponent while he struggles to penetrate you, then that's what I call offensive sidescraping. But if you are trying to bait the enemy into shooting at your well-angled armor and bounce before you shoot them while they reload, then that's defensive sidescraping. It works well for tanks that still have some visible weak spots while sidescraping. There is also something called reverse sidescraping. It sometimes is more useful than regular sidescraping, but you will rarely see anyone doing it. Mainly because you will be quite vulnerable if the other team decides to push, which isn't uncommon if we look at how small Blitz maps are. But hey, maybe you are not here to only learn about sidescraping, but also to find ways to counter sidescrapers. But first, maybe you want to shoot that subscribe button, as it's clearly not sidescraping well enough. With that said, I believe it's time to counter some sidescraping. First things first, sidescraping doesn't make tanks invincible. You can always find a weak spot no matter how small it can be. A good example of such thing would be the cupolas or fracs. If you're the type that doesn't care about silver as much as they care about performance, then switching to premium ammo with a higher penetration is always a more efficient option. But what if you do care about silver and want a cheaper option? Well, splash damage using high explosive ammunition might not be the most effective, but it'll probably be enough to make your opponents change tactics. Just remember, the bigger the caliber, the better the results. For light tanks and unarmored medium tanks players out there, I do not suggest facing a sidescraping tank frontally. You can either rush the enemy and try to win the duel using sheer firepower and speed, or you can take a safer approach by flanking and hitting the enemy from the sides or even the back. if none of the above is doable, just look for another target. This is how life works after all. We can't always have it our way. This is exactly why I am once again kindly asking you to support the channel, as I can't force you to do it. Or can I?